give you some classic examples of the decisions that are not optimum. Thank you.
The honourable member for Scarborough-Guildwood will have 6 minutes remaining for his comments when the House next returns to debate on the question, and of course the usual 5 minutes for questions and comments. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honourable député.
The honourable member for Bar-Richelieu, Nicolas Bécancourt. Mr. Speaker, last week the National Assembly adopted a unanimous motion rejecting any additional interference by the federal government in municipal affairs, as the NDP is preparing to do. Whether we're talking about a department or the Minister of Municipal or Urban Affairs, it's the same thing. This area is under Quebec's exclusive jurisdiction. In the 1970s, the Liberals had created a Department of Urban Affairs that was similar. Quebec and the provinces defended their area of exclusive jurisdiction tooth and nail, and the department was abolished several years later. Quebec has always vigorously protected its jurisdiction and will not allow the federal government, regardless of the party, interfere in its areas of jurisdiction. Because of this interference in pan-Canadian strategies, with the desire to centralize everything in Ottawa, the NDP wants to go over the heads of the Quebec National Assembly and is ignoring the fact that Quebec is a nation. That isn't working for the best interests of Quebec, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, today is Day on the Hill, and I have type 2 diabetes. Representatives from the Canadian Diabetes Association are on the Hill meeting with various members of Parliament, bringing awareness to discuss how diabetes affects their lives and their families. Here are a few statistics. 3.4 million Canadians have diabetes. 5.7 million Canadians are pre-diabetic. The estimated costs of diabetes in Canada are $14 billion, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to say our government has invested approximately $334 million towards diabetic research. We also support the prevention of diabetes by investing close to $20 million a year in partnerships that promote healthy living and prevent chronic diseases like diabetes. Please join us at 4 o'clock in room 216 North for the Sir Frederick Banting presentation that is happening, a great Canadian who discovered insulin. Mr. Speaker, I invite all members to sign the National Diabetes Charter of Canada to support Canadians achieving their full health potential. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Scarborough-Rouge River.
Summer is coming and too many across Canada are looking for jobs and not finding them, especially our young people. I fought for the youth in my community and was able to get additional funding for the Canada Summer Jobs Program in Scarborough-Rouge River. Though this is a small victory for our young people, we need to do more for all who are suffering from the low levels of good jobs in Scarborough. Our community has been robbed with cuts in the manufacturing industry, cuts which have replaced secure good jobs with jobs that are temporary, part-time, low-paid. Next weekend, I'm hosting a discussion and job fair with local stakeholders and employers who are creating job opportunities in the Scarborough community. This Conservative government has made empty promises about support programs and job creation, promises that have not delivered in our communities. Instead, they reflect an irresponsible system, incompetence, and failure in addressing the important issue of unemployment. Canadians deserve a government that delivers on promises, Mr. Speaker, makes the economy work for all and work hard for the well-being of youth. We need good jobs in Scarborough. We need a government that will create good jobs in all of our communities. Mr. Speaker, that government will be the new Democrat government formed later this year in October, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to congratulate the Republic of Poland on their recent presidential election. This month's election proves how far Poland has progressed since its democracy was restored almost 26 years ago. Mr. Speaker, this election recalls Poland's strong democratic tradition that dates back to 1793 when Poland became the first European country to adopt a written constitution. I would like to congratulate President-elect Andrzej Duda on his electoral victory, and I wish him a successful term as president. I would also like to congratulate outgoing President Bronisław Komorowski on his successful term as president and for his graciousness in defeat. And I congratulate the people of Poland for exercising their democratic franchise. Mr. Speaker, Poland is a great historic ally of Canada, and I am proud that our troops are serving side by side together today on Operation Reassurance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognise Mr. Miles Matheson, a lifetime servant of his community, province and country. Born in 1927 in Forest Hill, Prince Edward Island, Mr. Matheson served his country overseas, taking part in the liberation of France, Belgium, and Holland. He was awarded many medals and honours for his service, including the France and German Star, the Defence of Britain Medal, the Canadian Volunteer Service Medal, and the Class War Medal, and more recently the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Matheson was recently awarded the highest honour of the country of France, the rank of Knight of the National Order of the Legion of Honour, for his role in liberating that country. On behalf of all members of the House of Commons, I offer Miles Matheson our thanks for his many years of service to this great country and congratulate him on such a distinguished honour.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This weekend, I had the distinct pleasure of attending Table for 1201, the second edition of a pop-up dinner that took place at another exquisite setting in our city, beautiful Winnipeg. This spectacular event, organized by Storefront Manitoba, with the help of Deer and Almond and Diversity, was again a great success and brought people together in the spirit of design. It was a fabulous opportunity to come together and enjoy great food and friends with 1,201 guests gathered to share a meal. We enjoyed a beautiful summer night and spent an evening focusing on the great design culture that is growing in Winnipeg. Each table's captain played an amazing part in the creative presentation. I thank them for their hard work, and I congratulate the competition winners. Congratulations to all involved and all who attended an incredible event. I'm already looking forward to next year's.
The honourable member for Jean-Lebert.
Mr. Speaker, diabetes is an insipid disease. Like cancer, it can eat away at our bodies. But unlike cancer, diabetes is preventable. The incidences of obesity, inactivity, and unhealthy eating habits are at an all-time high in our communities. We have sacrificed the future health of our children for the sake of convenience, and we have clouded the adverse effects of additives such as salt and sugar, despite the detrimental effects they have on our health. Aujourd'hui, sur la colline,
Today on Parliament Hill, we are fortunate to have with us representatives from several organizations that are dedicated to raising the awareness in fighting diabetes. I would invite all of my colleagues to take the time to look into the extraordinary work that's being done in this battle, and above all, to support the work to come.
Without our health. Il est possible de vaincre le diabète lorsque on a...
Diabetes can be beaten with the right resources, combined with the right attitude.
Member for Langley.
Mr. Speaker, Acts of Kindness is a Langley community-based tradition that was started by the Aldergrove Seventh-day Adventist Church 12 years ago. Acts of Kindness has been doing extreme home repairs to the Aldergrove homes of families in need. The renovations are worth up to $100,000 each. The extreme home repairs are performed by volunteers over the 2 weeks before the Victoria Day holiday. Then the families are brought home for the big reveal. The homes selected this year were for the Canessa family and the Shufflebotham family. The Canessa home had water leaks through the stucco exterior, which had caused mold problems inside. This repair also included new paint, inside and out, electrical upgrades, and a new gas fireplace. The Shufflebotham home needed wheelchair access to the entire home, including raising a second living room. The bedrooms were remodeled, and the home was painted inside and out, including electrical upgrades and a new gas fireplace. Thank you to the Aldergrove Seventh-day Adventist Church and all the wonderful volunteers for their incredible acts of kindness to those in need.
Hear, hear. Honourable member for South Surrey, White Rock, Cloverdale.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to welcome to Ottawa 10 members of the Taiwan Chamber of Commerce in British Columbia. They are in Ottawa to meet with ministers, MPs, and government officials. The Chamber has a membership of over 650 Taiwanese Canadian business people in BC's Lower Mainland who share an interest in international trade. These Chamber members are exporting Canadian goods and services across the Pacific region and around the world. They represent great companies, including Advanced Lighting Technologies, GS Travel, Canada Group, Cosmos Education Corporation, Vance Financial Group, Hanyon Group, Lulu Island Winery, NTS International Group, and also banks and accounting firms. And members of the organization are also key leaders in the Taiwanese community which numbers over 442,000 in British Columbia. This cultural community has significant populations in the ridings of Burnaby South, Richmond Centre, Steveston, Richmond East, Vancouver Granville, and of course, my own beautiful riding of South Surrey, White Rock, Cloverdale. Welcome to Ottawa.
Hey, brother.
The honourable member for Hamilton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More and more Canadians with full-time jobs are struggling to make ends meet. They make minimum wage, and yet they still live under the poverty line. This is unacceptable in a country like ours and is fueling the living wage movement that is gaining momentum in my riding of Hamilton Centre and all across North America. Living Wage Hamilton, in partnership with Hamilton Roundtable for Poverty Reduction, McMaster Community Poverty Initiative, the Social Planning and Research Council, Workforce Planning Hamilton, and the Hamilton District Labour Council are leading the call for a $15 an hour minimum wage in Hamilton. A living wage would ensure that someone who works a 35-hour work week has enough income to live above the poverty line, and it will have significant impacts on reducing child poverty, improving health, and stimulating our local economy. The new NDP government in Alberta has pledged to raise the minimum wage in that province to $15 by 2018, and New Democrats here have committed to a $15 an hour federal minimum wage. I'm proud to support the Living Wage Hamilton campaign. Together, we can ensure that all workers earn enough to live with dignity and respect. Thank you.
The honourable member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, we have heard from the NDP that they think only families that use licensed daycares are real families. They believe that only a few select families deserve support in Canada. Well, Mr. Speaker, we have brought in the universal child care benefit and family tax cut that will help all families with children. Unlike the opposition on this side of the House, we will always give money back to Canadian families because it is their money, and that is what is fair.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, while in recent years digital technology has greatly contributed to this country, we've also noted that access to high-speed internet is not equally available for all, especially in the regions. And this is a shortcoming that was supposed to be corrected by the Digital Canada 150 program, but it seems that Abitibi-Témiscamingue is not part of the government's priorities, because we've just learned with astonishment and sadness that the pilot project put forth by the Regional Info Highway Management Program for Abitibi-Témiscamingue was not selected as part of Connecting Canada. This project was rejected despite a sound and high-quality proposal, even according to the evaluators. It would have given 98% of the people in this vast area access to high-speed internet. By rejecting the project, the economic, social development of an entire community was denied, despite the support of all elected officials and people in that area. Mr. Speaker, when the NDP is in power, we will ensure that all areas of Canada have access to affordable high-speed internet.
The honourable member for Brant.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal leader accidentally revealed his true thoughts. He said, I quote, "Benefiting every single family isn't what is fair." That's why he plans to take away income splitting, to take away the universal child care benefit, and to cut tax-free savings accounts. These are just the clawbacks and the tax hikes he admits. But even after all of that, he's still billions short of his spending plans. Mr. Speaker, all this proves that there would be more Liberal tax hikes to come, coming from the same person who said, budgets balance themselves. Canadians can't trust him or his party to do what's best for middle-class families. That is, keeping taxes low so that they can spend on their priorities.
The honourable member for Mount Royal.
Speaker, 10 years ago, Parliament and Canada at large were in the midst of an intense yet generally dignified democratic discussion about the recognition of same-sex marriage. As appellate courts began upholding the constitutionality of same-sex marriage, I referred the matter as Minister of Justice to the Supreme Court in 2004. The court heard from some 27 interveners before unanimously affirming that same-sex marriage was consistent with the Constitution, and I was proud to draft and introduce the Civil Marriage Act in February 2005. It took effect 10 years ago this summer, enshrining two fundamental charter rights: the equality rights of same-sex couples and the fundamental principle of freedom of religion. At the time, Canada was only the fourth country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage, and the first outside Europe. Today, with the recent addition of Ireland, same-sex marriage is recognized in some 20 countries, with more to come. Mr. Speaker, this year as we mark the 10th anniversary of the Civil Marriage Act, as well as the 30th anniversary of the Charter's equality rights provisions, we can be proud of Canadian leadership in matters of equality, freedom, justice, and human rights. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Saskatoon, Rosetown, Bigger.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition would prefer that we sit on the sidelines in the fight against the death cult ISIS, a group that has carried out unspeakable atrocities and called for such horrors to be committed against Canada. We cannot protect Canada by simply ignoring this threat. That's why our government is supporting military action in Iraq and Syria, taking action to stop the flow of foreign terrorist fighters, cutting off ISIS's funding sources, providing significant humanitarian assistance to victims, and supporting stabilization efforts to address local needs in the region. Mr. Speaker, Canada will continue to stand at the forefront of international efforts against this death cult. Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Winnipeg General Strike was the most significant turning point for working people in Canadian history. Before the strike was over, many were injured, some were killed, and its leaders were thrown into jail on trumped-up charges of sedition. But because of their courage and determination, Canadian workers won the right to organize, the right to free collective bargaining, and the right to a living wage. The lesson is that prison bars cannot contain ideas, just as revisionist conservatives cannot sanitize history by eliminating the exhibit paying tribute to the strike at their Museum of Selective History. The Conservative government never misses a chance to undermine workers' rights, and the Liberals inexplicably even find fault that the NDP staff enjoy the protection of union representation. It's clear that the old line parties cannot be trusted to respect collective bargaining. But I assure you, Mr. Speaker, that after October 19th, the newly elected NDP administration will set the history books straight and make sure the trade union movement gets the respect it deserves in the story of the social development of this country.
Mr. Speaker, our government has introduced the family tax credit cut and the universal child care benefit to make sure Canadian families keep more money in their pockets, unlike the Liberal leader, who thinks that benefiting every single family isn't what is fair. He wants to take away our family tax cut, universal child care benefit, and income splitting, and replace it with a family tax hike. Mr. Speaker, we won't let that happen. Thank you.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Director of Public Prosecutions has asked the police to examine accusations against top government officials concerning the destruction of government archives. Simple question: who gave the order to illegally destroy these documents? Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition knows very well that the RCMP respects all Canadian laws, and in addition, and it's even more important that it respects the will of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. We are very proud to have ended the costly, ineffective long gun registry and put in place measures to protect Canadians. When will the NDP support our measures? The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The problem with our Minister of Law and Order is that here his government is trying to make an illegal act retroactively legal, and that is against the basic principles of our democracy.
Conservatives are retroactively rewriting a law to make this illegal act legal. Conservatives are cutting off an ongoing police investigation. Is it to protect someone on the Conservative benches? Who gave this order to the RCMP?
Mr. Speaker, the Budget Implementation Act is closing a loophole that prevents, Mr. Speaker, the officer to respect the will of Parliament. But what is behind this question, Mr. Speaker, is this member and this party, Mr. Speaker, they want again to harass the law-abiding citizen of this country, Mr. Speaker. We will stand up and we will not let it happen. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Exactly so, Mr. Speaker. No one rewrites laws retroactively for honest citizens. They're retroactively rewriting laws to stop a police investigation. The Prime Minister's own Chief of Staff ordered an audit report altered to help Mike Duffy. Now Conservatives are blocking the release of the full details from the investigation on Senate residency. This Prime Minister is retroactively legalizing obstruction of justice. Will the Prime Minister release the full Senate audit on Mike Duffy's residency now for all Canadians to see?
Mr. Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition is serious about democracy, he should let these members have a free vote on the Common Sense Firearm Licensing Act, Mr. Speaker, for restoring dignity for law-abiding citizens. We will support that bill and close the loophole and defend Canadians. Thank you.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Foundation of our democracy, expounded by Dicey, that the law applies equally to everyone.
Dicey and Levy, not the same fight.
Isn't it convenient, Mr. Speaker, that the Prime Minister's office can doctor the Duffy report, but it can't release it to the public?
The Prime Minister said here on April 22nd that Duffy signed, before being appointed to the Senate, a declaration. Will the Conservatives release this document, yes or no? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, this case is before the courts, so we'll allow the courts to complete their work, Mr. Speaker. But as you know, Mr. Speaker, whether it's a senator or a member of Parliament, when Canadian taxpayers see their money being used inappropriately, they are angry, and they have the right to be angry and to expect that money to be returned to them. That's why I would suggest that the NDP avoid the sad spectacle of having the Leader of the Opposition in court this summer trying to defend the over $2 million that they owe the taxpayers. Do the right thing for the taxpayer and pay the money back.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
When they get him to stand up, we know they're having a very bad question period, Mr. Speaker.
The Auditor General is now investigating almost half of all senators for their illegal expenses. 10 new cases will be referred to the RCMP. So that's 14 senators who are under criminal investigation or before the courts. How can we have confidence that each file will be properly studied when the new official policy of the Prime Minister is to promote obstruction of justice? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
It was the Senate who invited the Auditor General in to examine their expenses, and we expect all senators to assist in this. But, Mr. Speaker, let's be very clear. It is the opposition, the NDP, 68 members who owe over $2 million to Canadian taxpayers, another 23 who owe over $1.1 million to taxpayers. They broke the law, and this summer we're going to see the sad spectacle of the Leader of the Opposition, his House Leader, and other members of his caucus before the courts trying to tell Canadians why it was they used that money. Avoid that and simply pay it back.
Hear, hear.
Honourable Member for Beauséjour. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative decision to raise OAS and GIS eligibility to 67 years is unfair. This decision will cost our most vulnerable seniors $32,000. At the same time, the Conservatives are helping those who can afford to put $10,000 aside every year by raising TFSA limits. Why are the Conservatives helping those who need it the least on the backs of the most vulnerable. Honourable Minister of Employment. Mr. Speaker, when a senior leases their spouse and inherits some money, they want to keep that money without having to pay taxes on those gains. When a senior sells a home because it's too big for them, if they downsize, or if they need more accessible housing, they need more money. And that's why 60% of those who max out their TFSAs earn less than $60,000 a year. Liberals want to increase taxes on those people.
Today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that TFSAs will cost the next generation tens of billions of dollars each year. A third of that cost will be borne by provinces that are already struggling to pay for health care. The Finance Minister once admitted that the new TFSA limit would create a problem and said, why don't we leave it to the Prime Minister's granddaughter to solve it? Why are the Conservatives willing to mortgage our children's future with a reckless plan to buy votes on the eve of an election? And will the Finance Minister please answer this question?
I spent 4 hours yesterday evening answering questions, some from the honourable member. I'm happy to do it again and repeat the answers I gave before. The TFSA is a wonderful way for Canadians to save for their first home, for their education, for their retirement. That's why 11 million Canadians have TFSAs. The vast majority, middle and lower income Canadians, 60% who've maximized their contributions earn less than $60,000 a year. $42,000 represents half of those who have accounts in TFSAs.
The member for Kings
Speaker, GIS is meant for low-income seniors, but the Conservatives have created a loophole where soon even the rich can qualify. Here's how. If you maximize your TFSAs and delay other income until the age of 70, you can get the maximum GIS for 3 years while living off your TFSAs. This morning, the PBO confirmed that this will lead to billions of dollars per year in extra GIS payments. Why are the Conservatives raising the age of GIS for those most vulnerable Canadian seniors and leaving this loophole for wealthier seniors who don't need the help?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
600,000 seniors with incomes below $60,000 are currently maximizing their TFSA accounts, and they benefit from this measure. The Canadian Association of Retired Persons, CARP, strongly supports this measure. I wonder what the member opposite will tell them when how will he explain why he wants to cancel this extremely important tax-saving measure for retired people and for people in the lower and middle income brackets. Why would they rather take this money away rather than give an opportunity for Canadians to save?
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. The Prime Minister appointed Mike Duffy to the Senate, and his office is directly involved in altering a report on senators' spending. His silence is unacceptable. The forthcoming report from the Auditor General, will show that 10 other senators claimed money illegally. A total of 14 senators will now be targeted by a criminal investigation from the RCMP. Why did the Prime Minister's office intervene to protect senators who had their hands in the public purse?
Secretary
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The member is completely wrong. It was the Senate that actually invited the Auditor General in to examine all of the expenses of the Senate, Mr. Speaker. And as I've said, if any senator is found guilty or has used money inappropriately, that senator should pay it back. And if they've done something criminal, then they should face the full consequences of that, Mr. Speaker. But it's no different for members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Canadians work hard, and they expect the money that they send here to be used properly. And when they don't, they expect it to be paid back. That's why it's important that the NDP pay back the millions of dollars they owe taxpayers. Do it now and avoid the sad spectacle of court.
The honourable member for Timmins, James Hay. Order. Let's put a quick stop to any chanting in the chamber. That's unbecoming. The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are hardworking. They expect better from a government that is now embroiled with 50 senators being investigated for corruption. This is a scandal that begins and ends in the Prime Minister's office, from the potentially ineligible Senate appointments to the whitewashed audit. We learned from the RCMP that when it came to whitewashing the Deloitte audit, the Prime Minister's key staff were heavily involved in discussions with the Senate. So will the Prime Minister's spokesman tell the House who in the Prime Minister's office have been discussing with the key Conservative senators about the bombshell Auditor General's report that's coming out next week?
Very good. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
As I've said, Mr. Speaker, it was the Senate that actually invited the Auditor General in to examine all expenses of the Senate, Mr. Speaker. And if any senator is found to have broken the law, then that senator, of course, taxpayers would expect that senator face the full consequences of the law, Mr. Speaker. But it's no different for members of Parliament. There are 68 members of the NDP who owe over $2 million back to the taxpayer, another 23 who owe over $1 million back to the taxpayer, and this summer the sad spectacle of the Leader of the Opposition and other members in court trying to defend that. Canadian taxpayers want their money back.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Pretty sad for a Prime Minister who promised us transparent government and hides behind the antics of that man. It says a lot. But speaking of hiding, now we know how this government has tried to drive the access to information system into the ground and obstruct the commissioner at every turn. But now we're learning that they're using summer students to vet government documents, including issues of cabinet confidences, issues of privacy, issues of timely access to Canadians have a right to information. This is just plain incompetence. So other than hiring students from Kijiji, does this government have any plan to address the terrible crisis under access to information in this country?
Speaker, what I can say in this place is that there has never been more access to information requests that have been followed through on, that have been responded to. A record number, I believe it's 46,000, Mr. Speaker, and that is the record of this government. The requests come in, they are processed, they are responded to. That's the access to information regime, and we are proud to have this open government that responds to the requests of the citizenry.
The honourable member for Stormont, Wonderful.
It turns out the Conservatives have also been hiding the facts when it comes to security issues. The minister has repeatedly insisted that the Security Intelligence Review Committee has a mandate to fully oversee CSIS, but it turns out this is not the case. Yesterday, the head of the Security Intelligence Review Committee said they cannot follow information once shared with other departments. Yet this is exactly the power being dramatically expanded by the Conservatives. Can the minister explain why he has, once again, been caught misleading Canadians on Bill C-51?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me just inform my colleague that the Economic Action Plan 2015 proposes to provide up to $2.5 million over 5 years, ongoing and additional funding to the Security Intelligence Review Committee. Mr. Speaker, one of the institutions, a Canadian institution, a Canadian model that we can be very proud of, and that is an example for the world, Mr. Speaker. When will the NDP get serious about terrorism, put their mouth where the money should go, and support our budget, Mr. Speaker?
The honourable member for Alfred Bellin. The problem goes beyond just money, Mr. Speaker. The director of CERC has raised concerns and has said that his mandate is too limited. C-51 will allow our intelligence services to share information with 17 other organizations and agencies, but will not allow CERC to know what those 17 other agencies do with that information. Why has the government not increased the mandate of the committee as the NDP has requested? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, allow me to remind my colleague that the Oversight Committee for our intelligence service has an enlarged mandate and can look into all operations undertaken by CSIS in Canada or abroad. It can even go out in the field in other countries to do that, Mr. Speaker, unlike parliamentary oversight that we see in other countries, which is just superficial. They get to the bottom of things, and C-51 gives them the mandate to report to Parliament, and we all are open to continuing to ensure that they are fully transparent, and we ensure that our intelligence services continue to protect Canadians. The Honourable Member for Alfred-Perrin. The Minister of Public Safety should know that Canadians are against C-51, among other things, because of the lack of oversight. Yesterday, the director of the committee criticized their limited capacities to oversee information sharing between agencies. In the case of Afghan detainees, it was the Department of Defense that had the information and not our intelligence services. Impossible to investigate. So, does the minister feel that it's acceptable to limit oversight of our intelligence agencies? Well, Mr. Speaker, I think, for example, if we look at the Canadian Border Services Agency or the RCMP, every institution has measures in place that allow us to do follow-up. These measures have been put in place to protect Canadians, and Canadians understand that. A recent poll has showed that over 71% support our anti-terrorist measures. What's important, Mr. Speaker, is that these measures will be put into place to truly protect Canadians, and I'd like to thank my Conservative colleagues for supporting these measures. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Marquion-Angers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Government of Quebec and the Union des Producteurs Agricoles of Quebec have renewed their call for Conservatives to protect supply management. The Prime Minister has even said that Canadians will need to make difficult choices in negotiations for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And that's causing concern in the agri-food sector in Quebec. Will the Minister of Agriculture meet with his Quebec counterpart to renew the Conservatives' commitment to supply management? It's a simple question, yes or no? Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, our government will continue to promote Canadian trade interests across all sectors of our economy, including supply management. That has never prevented us from successfully completing other free trade agreements, such as the free trade with Europe and South Korea. We make absolutely no apologies for ensuring that any deal reached must be in Canada's best interest. As always, we will only sign a trade agreement if it significantly benefits Canadian businesses, workers, and their families, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Well, we know based on the past that we can't trust the Conservatives. A government memo has revealed that trade negotiations between Canada and Japan are all but dead after 3 years. And Japan has rejected 2 Conservative proposals to renew discussions this year. An agreement with Japan would bring in almost $4 billion to the Canadian economy. What is the Conservative plan to bring Japan back to the bargaining table? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we obviously know what the NDP's position is when it comes to trade. They have opposed virtually every single deal that we have signed, and we've signed 38, Mr. Speaker, since coming to office. Canada continues to engage with our Japanese partners to advance our trade interests through both bilateral talks and at the TPP. The TPP negotiations are advanced stages, with all TPP countries focused on concluding a comprehensive and high-standard agreement as soon as possible. We will continue to negotiate with an eye to concluding the best possible agreement for Canadian businesses, workers, and their families, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the NDP policy on trade is to have a transparent policy that brings good Canadian jobs to this country and help Canadian businesses in the world stage. Conservatives keep up their public bluster on trade. Internal government communications tell a different story. Officials now admit that trade negotiations with Japan have ground to a halt. Mr. Speaker, a good deal could be worth billions for our economy, but the Conservatives can't even set a date for talks. Why has this minister allowed this opportunity to stall, and what is he doing to get Japan back to the bargaining table?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Trade.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP has consistently opposed our efforts to open up new markets for Canadian businesses. In fact, they have an abysmal record when it comes to the trade file. The fact is, NDP is ideologically opposed to any and all trade. They don't understand trade. They don't like trade. Only this Conservative government is focused on the priorities of Canadians when it comes to creating jobs and opportunities, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Island.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. PIPSI, the union representing government scientists, is asking for an unprecedented scientific integrity package in its collective bargaining agreement. Rather than asking for a raise, they're asking the government to unmuzzle science. They're explicitly seeking protection to, quote, from, quote, coercion to alter their data. Canadians need to trust that government policies to keep us safe and healthy are based on objective evidence that is not being altered for partisan ends. Will the President of the Treasury Board agree to this no-cost ask in upcoming contract negotiations?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the Honourable Member is shilling for the union bargaining unit with their latest demands from the taxpayers, Mr. Speaker. That's his right to do so if he so chooses. What we choose to do is bargain fairly and reasonably with the bargaining unit on behalf of the taxpayers to make sure we have fair and reasonable agreements that are affordable to the taxpayer, and we will continue to do so.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadro.
Mr. Speaker, the Deschamps report found that a hostile, sexualized climate in the military is so ingrained that the chain of command turns a blind eye. But Major General Whitecross, who's been deputized to fix the problem, admits that there is still little consensus within the ranks as to its seriousness at all. For example, it took 5 months for Julie Lalonde to get an apology after being verbally attacked for giving a sexual assault prevention lecture at Royal Military College. The minister is missing in action on the Deschamps report and refused to attend Monday's committee meeting at all. Why? And when will he take personal responsibility, finally do something to restore a positive, supportive environment for all our men and women in this very important workplace?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Kind of question that's par for the course for that member. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the military takes this matter extremely seriously, and everyone in the General Command of the Canadian Armed Forces has expressed their grave concern about the issues addressed in the Deschamps Commission. In fact, it was the Chief of Defence Staff himself who appointed Madame Justice Deschamps to do that report, who appointed Major General Whitecross to begin implementing a strategy for a zero-tolerance approach to sexual misconduct. I appeared for committee for 2 hours just a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Speaker. I'm always happy to appear. Yesterday I was chairing the Cabinet Committee, and sometimes our schedules don't mesh, but I'd be happy to come to the committee.
And the Honourable Member for Westmount Vaughan Reid.
Mr. Speaker, I think the minister is in denial.
The Deschamps report is calling for changes even within the upper ranks of the Canadian Armed Forces to end the culture of sexual abuse. Meanwhile, cadets verbally harassed Julie Lalonde while she gave a talk on preventing sexual violence at the Royal Military College. She had to wait 5 months before getting an apology. When will the minister show true leadership and implement all of the recommendations in the Deschamps report? The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, as the member knows very well, it is the responsibility of the command of the Canadian Armed Forces to ensure that there is zero tolerance for inappropriate sexual harassment or abuse. And that is why the Chief of the Defence Staff has asked Madame Deschamps to create this report and named Major General Whitecross to implement all of the 10 recommendations in the report. We will never accept sexual harassment within the Canadian military.
Jacques Gauthier.
Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. At committee, Major General Christine Whitecross put it plainly. There's no consensus in the military brass over the extent of the sexual misconduct problem in the Canadian Forces, even though the Deschamps report clearly found that the problem was systemic and had existed for decades. This hostile culture won't change without leadership from government to protect victims. Will the minister finally show some leadership and undertake to victims to put a stop to this hostile culture? The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, it was under this current government that the Chief of the Defence Staff appointed a former Justice of the Supreme Court to do a totally in-depth, independent report on the issue of sexual misconduct in the Canadian Forces. It was under this government that the Chief of the Defence Staff appointed someone to manage the response of the Canadian Forces and to implement a zero-tolerance policy. That is the solution of the Canadian Armed Forces and of this government.
Mr. Speaker, despite the clear findings of systemic sexual misconduct, harassment and assault in the Canadian military and the failure to properly address it, Major General Whitecross is still finding there is, quote, little consensus as to the gravity of the existing problem among leaders in the military. The Deschamps report is absolutely clear that there is a culture of sexual misconduct within the forces that requires strong leadership to fix. Now, after making a public commitment to do so, why did the minister refuse to come to the Defence Committee yesterday and answer questions about his response to the report? And when will he start to show his leadership and ownership of this problem?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Of course, Mr. Speaker, if the minister were to micromanage the military command, the opposition would complain about political interference. Exactly. Now, I just appeared at the committee the last time the committee met for 2 hours, Mr. Speaker. In fact, it was supposedly on the estimates, but the member opposite didn't ask me a single question about the estimates. Mr. Speaker, members know that I'm very accessible to committee. I was chairing a cabinet committee yesterday, Mr. Speaker, and I'm always happy to appear before committee. But the important thing, Mr. Speaker, is that the general who's been appointed with a specific mandate to implement the recommendations of the Deschamps report was there before the committee, and if the member would like, I'd be happy to appear as whenever schedules match.
The Honourable Member for York South-Weston.
Mr. Speaker, this Conservative government has told Karen Tolosig and her daughter Jasmine that they are not welcome in Canada because Jasmine is deaf. Even though the BC School for the Deaf said it has a spot for Jasmine and the Burnaby Public School Board certified that no special funding is required for her education, this Conservative government, being deaf, apparently disqualifies you from becoming Canadian. Mr. Speaker, that's so wrong. Will the minister do the right thing and grant permanent residency to Karen and Jasmine?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, a letter was sent to Mrs. Tolosik in which we invited her to respond to the concerns that were raised about her daughter. And Mrs. Tolosik has 60 days to respond and address the concerns raised by visa officials. This is an opportunity for Mrs. Tolosik to explain how she will mitigate the extra costs to the provincial healthcare system because of a medically inadmissible dependent. Until visa officials hear back from Mrs. Tolosik on this, Mr. Speaker, it would be inappropriate for us to comment further as the final decision is yet to be made.
The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. There's only 1 week left for the 3,200 Haitians under threat of deportation from Quebec to regularize their situation and file an application for permanent residence. So far, only 20% of them have done so. The Quebec Immigration Minister and the Mayor of Montreal have called for a 3-month stay. It's not complicated. It doesn't cost anything. So why is the minister stubbornly refusing this modest request? Mr. Speaker, Canada has one of the fairest and most generous immigration systems in the world. We have expanded this generosity by allowing people to remain in Canada when it was unsafe for them to go home. We have worked close with the Haitian community in Montreal and Toronto to encourage all Haitians who wish to remain in Canada to fill out their application. Thank you.
The honourable member for York Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Our government has lowered taxes and enhanced voluntary options so Canadians can save more of their hard-earned money. In contrast, the Liberals and the NDP want to hike taxes and hike CPP payroll taxes. Canadians know what this means. It'll kill jobs and will give Canadians less money to keep their hard-earned money. Would the Minister of Finance please tell this House what other voluntary options he would consider?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that Canadians want low taxes and the freedom to make their own financial decisions. Building on our record of creating options for Canadians to save, like the tax-free savings account, I'm pleased to inform the House that we are open to giving Canadians the option to voluntarily contribute more to the Canada Pension Plan to supplement their current CPP retirement savings. What we will not do is reach into the pockets of middle-class Canadians with a mandatory payroll tax like the Liberals and NDP would do.
The Honourable Member for Brossard-la-Prairie. Mr. Speaker, 2/3 of the Champlain Bridge's beams are heavily damaged. 7 central beams, quote, got the lowest score a beam can get, unquote. The report of the Bridge Corporation is damning. The Liberals and the Conservatives are to blame, and now the bridge is deteriorating rapidly. Residents and drivers are very worried. Will the minister show some transparency and tell us when the report will be made public? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, user safety is very important to us. We've made available to the Bridge Corporation all the money necessary to conduct the work. There was a vote in 2009 and the NDP voted against it. And in 2010, same thing. In 2011, the same thing. And in 2014. And then they have the nerve to tell us that safety is important to them. The Leader of the Opposition. What we want to know, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition has the floor now.
What we'd like to know, Mr. Speaker, is in 2015, will the minister and that Conservative government take responsibility for the real risk the public runs because of their mismanagement, their incompetence, and their failure to ensure adequate maintenance of the Champlain Bridge? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, scaremongering and spreading false information, that's what that party does. We took office and we have worked all along. We've earmarked the appropriate funding. I'd like to congratulate the Bridge Corporation that keeps up the bridges in Montreal. They do excellent work on all the bridges, and they are responsible for upkeep, and they do a great job. We are down to work, and we are building a new bridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are angry over service cuts at Canada Post. People in Hamilton are protesting at a future Canada Post community mailbox site. Last week in London, residents spoke out at a community meeting, angry because they were never consulted. A 94-year-old woman called my office upset about having to wade through 4 pages of complicated red tape and get a doctor's note just to get her mail delivered. When will the minister stop defending Canada Post and start defending Canadians?
Speaker, that member will know that in 2014, Canada Post delivered 1.4 billion fewer letters than they did in 2006, and that 2/3 of Canadians currently do not have door-to-door mail delivery. Canada Post must, of course, balance its finances without being a burden to taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, the NDP's plan for Canada Post will cost taxpayers $500 million a year, which means they will raise taxes on every single Canadian, Mr. Speaker. We won't do that. We're keeping taxes low on this side of the House.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie.
It's made $194 million profit. We can afford jobs without delivery in this country. La colère des citoyens contre la décision.
Public anger over Canada Post's decision to end door-to-door delivery keeps growing. The infrastructure minister had some explaining to do before the Convention of Quebec Municipalities. And what he said was that he would make inquiries with Canada Post. Inquiries. The minister's 2 years late. When are they going to restore door-to-door delivery as they should?
Speaker, that member is spiking the proverbial football when Canada Post didn't have to make a $1.3 billion special payment to a pension plan, Mr. Speaker. Tell that to the retirees. Canada Post, Mr. Speaker, has structural problems. Letter mail is declining at staggering rates, Mr. Speaker. They have a plan to address that, and the member should let Canada Post get on with delivering on that.
The honourable member for Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this government is refusing to let the 15-year-old daughter of a Filipino live-in caregiver join her mother in BC. It says a deaf child will be an excessive burden on the state. Really? Many deaf persons in Canada are educated, high-performing members of society. The BC School for the Deaf says a child is proficient in American Sign Language and it is no more cost to educate her than any other child. So, is this the government's new discriminatory immigration policy? The deaf persons need not apply?
That's it.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, it's shameful that the Liberal member opposite chooses to play politics with immigration cases.
Exactly.
It's exceptionally much worse for them to be asking me about a case where no final decision has yet to be made. Independent and highly trained officers make decisions based on Canada's immigration laws, Mr. Speaker.
And the honourable member for Ottawa South.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister announces an infrastructure vanity slush fund widely described as a partisan pre-election stunt. He should be ashamed of himself. Not only does the program have totally different rules for every region of the country, the timelines are intentionally rigged so that the Conservatives can announce winning projects, wait for it, just before the federal election campaign begins. Can the Prime Minister explain how it has come to this, how he has fallen so very far? With so many real needs for infrastructure investment in Canada, when will he stop playing silly, partisan games with our tax dollars?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, the 150th anniversary will be in 2070. If we want to have the project done, realize before the date, we have to start the process. And that's what we're doing now. In addition to our support to the 150th anniversary of country, we will support renovation, expansion and improvement on existing community infrastructure. This new investment will support implementation of projects all across the country, and we're proud of that, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. The Port of Trois-Rivières has to submit its project proposal for evaluation, and the Port of Quebec City will conduct its own assessment with its own criteria. The consequences of expanding the port facilities concern neighboring residents, and they'll have to lower their windows. Will the people of Quebec City be entitled to a full, genuine, public, and independent evaluation, or will it be a fait accompli? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Of course, the Port of Quebec, the member will know, is an independent arm's-length organization that is responsible for its operational decisions, Mr. Speaker. I know the member would like to make all these decisions on the floor of the House of Commons, but that's what the agencies do. And Mr. Speaker, we expect, of course, that the Port of Quebec, like any port, would be in consultation with the communities that it's a part of. Makes sense.
The honourable member for Beauharnois-Salaberry. Mr. Speaker, this government boasts that they're the champions of law and order, and yet they've closed down border crossings, including one in my riding, in Franklin. Since 2012, 1,000 fewer positions at CBSA. The government has replaced live customs officers with cameras, and now we hear customs officials don't have all the tools they need to protect our safety. Will the minister finally do something? He seems willing to do things to fight terrorism, but people, my constituents, have been waiting a long time for answers. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for her question, and I'd like to reassure her that we've increased by 26% the number of frontline officers at the Canadian Border Services Agency. They do outstanding work in protecting the longest border between two countries. They do an outstanding job, and our border crossings are part of a major infrastructure plan, and I'd like to congratulate the agency because once again today they arrested two of the most wanted people. They do outstanding work, and I'd like to congratulate them on that.
Mr. Speaker, our government has brought in multiple measures to help middle-class families. Can the Minister of Employment please update this House on the impact of our universal child care benefit and the family tax cut?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Minister of Employment.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the universal child care benefit in its original amount and form already lifted 41,000 children out of poverty and into the middle class. I recently asked my officials to examine what the new increases that the Prime Minister has put forward would do to further reduce poverty in this country. But I was really discouraged to hear the Liberals today announce that they believe that seniors who put money in tax-free savings accounts should have their guaranteed income supplement clawed back. Mr. Speaker, that is an attack on working-class seniors who've done the responsible thing by saving for their future. We will never allow that to happen.
And the honourable member for
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Information Commissioner warned the Ethics Committee, quote, "The retroactive stripping of the application of the Access to Information Act is a perilous precedent," end quote. This, Mr. Speaker, is related to the fact that the RCMP has destroyed government documents and the Information Commissioner has asked the Attorney General to lay charges. Put simply, Mr. Speaker, the measures in the budget bill are a legislated cover-up to protect the instigator of a crime. I ask the Minister, who in the Minister's office ordered the RCMP to destroy government documents in violation of the law?
Yes. Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, from a member who have occupied an important position, cabinet position, I would expect more trust, more respect for the excellent work of the RCMP, and respect their professionalism, Mr. Speaker. I am disappointed, Mr. Speaker, but I can tell the member that yes, we are closing a loophole, Mr. Speaker, to respect not only the Canadian law, but the will of Parliament. This member and this party would want to bring back the long and ineffective long gun registry, Mr. Speaker. We will stand up for the respect of all Canadians who are complying with the law, and we will support the budget as well, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, Minister Fournier is upset. After axing the Community Infrastructure Plan in 2014, the Conservatives have now created the Canada 150 Fund for upgrades to municipal infrastructure. But in their haste to get their photos taken with big cardboard checks just before the election, the minister forgot to do his homework and call the Quebec government to ink the deal. And as a result, Quebec municipalities are left out. Will the minister sit down with the government of Quebec and sign a deal? The Honourable Minister.
Member for Fleetwood, Port Kells. The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. I thought he'd answer.
Mr. Speaker, it's a federal program. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues should understand that when it's a federal program, we're the ones who run it. We don't have to call the provinces. We're the federal government. We don't need their permission to run a federal program. And we will be supporting things all across Quebec. All kinds of community organizations will benefit from this program.
Mr. Speaker,
the people of Surrey are demanding action. Gang violence is threatening the safety of law-abiding Canadians, and we cannot stand aside while this violence goes on. Just last Sunday, there was another senseless shooting, leaving residents of the area exposed to the drug turf war that is going on. Can the Minister of Public Safety please update this House on what is being done to ensure our communities are safe?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member not only for a question, but for outstanding work, Mr. Speaker, in Surrey, for making the community safer, working with leaders of the community, Mr. Speaker. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to confirm that we are providing 100 more RCMP officers as requested by the government, but also we are providing with $3.5 million, Mr. Speaker, 20 times more than the British government, the government of British Columbia asked us, Mr. Speaker, and 30 new measures, Mr. Speaker, measures to counter violence were adopted by our government. We are standing and supporting the people of Surrey, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Haute-Gaspésie, La Métis Matane Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, as a complainant, I got a copy of the Official Language Commissioner's preliminary report on the NEB's refusal to translate Energy East pipeline documents into French. Shockingly, the Commissioner found that the Official Languages Act didn't apply and that the documents filed by TransCanada were not communications with the public, even though there's no other way for Francophones to find out how and where the pipeline is going to go. I'm sure the Minister responsible for official languages would find it unacceptable for a company to develop a pipeline in Alberta and publish the documents in French only. The Act needs to be changed. Will the Minister do it? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the National Energy Board takes its responsibilities under the Official Languages Act seriously. Any documents produced by the National Energy Board must be published in both official languages. Questions related to documents filed by an applicant should be directed to the project proponent.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton St. Albert.
Speaker, this week the new Alberta government introduced a lean new cabinet of only 12 ministers, less than half the size of the former Premier Redford's grossly oversized version. Now, when this federal government assumed office in 2006, its original cabinet was 26 members, in the Prime Minister's own words, designed for work, not for show, more focus and purpose, less process and cost. However, the current ministry has swelled to 39 members, by far the largest cabinet in the democratic world. Since the Prime Minister lacks the discipline to constrain the size of his cabinet, will the government support my private member's bill C-672 to statutorily limit the size of cabinet to a maximum of 26 ministers?
Mr. Speaker, our government has been focused on ensuring that Canadian tax dollars are guarded carefully and husbanded carefully. That's why we have delivered, thanks to the leadership of our Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, a balanced budget this year. That's why we have the strongest fiscal position of any of the major developed economies in this world. And everybody who's watching today knows there's only one party in this House of Commons that is seriously committing to taking care of tax dollars, and that is the Conservative Party in this government.
That concludes question period for today. Orders of the day. Order du jour.
Government orders business supply, resuming debate on the opposition motion in the name of Mr. Hsu, Federal Science Research.
Member for Scarborough-Guildwood has 6 minutes left to conclude his remarks. So I'll ask honourable members to leave the chamber if they need to carry on conversations so that I can hear the honourable member's last 6 minutes of his speech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And prior to question period, I was talking about bloodletting. And it appears that the bloodletting is not just limited to out-of-date medical procedures, but is still living on in Environment Canada. The title of the document I was reading from is called Environment Canada's Scientists Told to Toe the Line. Until now, Environment Canada is one of the most open and accessible departments. And one of the researchers said, quote, they've been muzzled. says Weaver of Federal Researchers, the concept of free speech is non-existent in Environment Canada. They're manufacturing the message of science. Well, Mr. Speaker, this is pretty serious.